Let's talk creatives. So what creatives are working right now, and or what are some of the creative mistakes that you see brands making right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest mistake, let's start there. Let's tear it down and then build it up. I think the biggest mistake people are making and brands are making is they think that there's a best kind of creative. And so they're constantly chasing whatever that screenshot they saw, what worked. I can tell you this. I'm working with a brand in the clothing business, apparel and accessories. They'll do over 150 million this year, and they run only square static images. I also personally am a partner in a clothing business, and we spend 75-80% of our money on videos that are kind of designed for reels. Some of it is UGC, some of it's highly produced, some of it isn't. The point there is what does work is what you do well and how people are used to hearing from you. Almost every brand that you know has an identity. Like I've been sipping on this Liquid Death, right? So Liquid Death is great around branding. If
Unbelievable
Liquid
brand. If you
Death,
don't know the Liquid Death story, you got to pay attention. Yeah.
yeah. Now, if Liquid Death, what they've done is they basically took the Warp Tour, Ozfest, all of that type of vibe, and they turned it into a water business, which is great. Now, if they came out with an ad that felt like a Gap commercial because everybody else was winning with it, that ad wouldn't do well. Now, it might work for everybody else. Maybe that works for Dasani and it works for, all the other brands on the shelf next to them, but it wouldn't work for them. And what's most important is figuring out how you can communicate with, inspire trust in a relationship with your target customer base, and then ultimately continue to hammer that home. And think of all the different types of ads that you've seen on television, all the different commercials over the world, and we still have the Geico Gecko. We still have, Flo
Totally.
from Progressive. We still have
Yep.
the M&Ms, right? We still have the polar bears at Christmas for Coca-Cola. Know what you do well and leverage that as much as possible. That's the greatest hack to creative.
But I love this. What you do well and how people are used to seeing you, what generates trust, and then go all in on that.
Yeah.
But yeah. What else? What are your other
Yeah,
thoughts on
so
creative?
the most important thing to do in creative is figure out what is your unique positioning in the marketplace. How do you define your own little piece of the pie? And then how do you make that pie bigger? That's really the trick. I will tell you this. If your strategy is to chase what's working, you are only going to ever be a lesser version of 80% of the market. If you want to be elite, figure out your identity and stick with it. Like, if you changed your clothes and the way you talked every single day and went out into the world, you would have no friend. Like, it's the same thing. What you're looking to do more than anything in any business is ultimately have relationships with people. And especially in direct consumer and e-commerce, what we're trying to do is acquire profitable customer journeys with multiple sales and a long-term relationship for great LTV. That happens because of identity and because of trust. So figure out what you do and then continue to do it. What you do well matters. And so figure out what you do well and continue to do that versus chasing all the other things from everybody else, because you're only going to ever do a worse job than the person you're trying to copy.
Yeah, I love that. You'll only be, if you're just chasing what works, you'll always be a second run type of deal. And I make a lot of sports analogies, but to compare this to sports, I coach basketball, and so if someone said, "Hey, what's the best basketball move?" Well, I don't know. What are you good at? Like
Yeah.
what fits you, right? You're a post player, you guard, you got speed, you got size, you got jumping ability, you're a great outside shooter. Like, that's what matters. And then do what you're really good at. And that totally makes sense when it comes to creative
It's like
as well. So, okay.
Steph Curry versus Michael Yeah, if you did like Steph Curry versus Michael Jordan, well, they're completely different players. Like
Right.
LeBron James
Right.
just
Yeah.
scored the
So
most
do what
points,
you're good at.
but he's also shooting 50% more three-pointers than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has like 3 attempts behind the three-point line.
Yeah, well, and I have to check the dates. Most all of his career, that the 3-point line didn't exist, right? So like he couldn't even do it. So yeah, different eras, different everything, but super
Yeah.
interesting. So understand what you're good at, and then key on that. Any advice? So if someone's kind of stuck in that rut of I'm just chasing what's working, I'm hearing this new ad type or this type of UGC or this, and I'm just lurching. How does someone understand what are they good at, and then so that they can double down on that?
Yeah, I think it's always good to test stuff. It's always good to be uncomfortable and to lose. And you should always have part of your efficiency as a business baked into loss, right? Like if I'm breaking even, I'm probably losing money because it means that I can't test. I can't get better. So I try to bake in the idea of a 5 or 10% loss as normal operating procedure. And hey, look, if you have a retail location, that would be returns and theft and all of that stuff. That's just baked into business. What I think people need to do starting off with is everybody has an identity on how they communicate. Some people are great copywriters. Lean on it. Some people are great on camera. Lean on it. Some people are great graphic designers. How do you get attention? I think there is far too much focus on figuring out how to build the best ad for your business and not nearly enough attention and time and effort put into how does this business already make money? Why don't we just do more of that? And sometimes the easiest ways to turn a struggling 7-figure business into something on a 9-figure run rate is to get rid of every effort that isn't honest and true to who the business is. Like if you have a beautiful product, just show me a picture of the product. You know, like I brought TRX to market, and if you just took a picture of it, the most beautiful pictures in the world will never sell it. We had to do a video.
Sorry, what is TRX?
The workout equipment from the gym, the yellow bands. So I brought that to market. A picture wouldn't do it. We had to show
a picture
videos
of a rubber band. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah. There was no concept. So the best way to get somebody's attention, and you know this even when you're trying as a business owner, trying to sell the product and get people interested. What are you doing in person? How are you communicating? You can't just say, hey, look, here's some military grade rope. Like, great. Am I supposed to buy that? What am I supposed to do? Instead, you can show somebody what's going on and all of a sudden it clicks. Being able to figure out how you can earn somebody's attention and then monetize it has very little to do with like the kind of ad that you run. Like the ads that you run are an appropriation of that knowledge. But if your business isn't successful enough to have cash flow before you run ads, the ads are never going to make you successful. And I think that's one of the biggest pain points people have is they think the only thing missing is good ads. Like they think, I've got a great business. All I need to do is get on Shark Tank and have somebody give me money. Like that's not the way that it works. You have to have something that works so you can pour fuel on that fire. Facebook ads is just fuel on the fire. It amplifies your existing business model. So the easiest thing for a business to do if you want to learn how to make the best ads is look to how you already make money. What do you do well? And then appropriate that for some paid version of attention. Otherwise, you're going to waste weeks, months, or years of your life just being dishonest with yourself and with your customers and failing.
And people feel that, right? When you're not totally honest, or you're not true to who the brand is or who your product is, people feel that it comes out in some way in the ad, and it just kills the believability and the effectiveness. And I love how you kind of broke that down. It's very simple but very powerful. Is how do you best get attention? How do you best get attention for your product? And then how do you best demonstrate it and allow that story to come to life? And yeah, if I'm selling artwork, maybe just a picture of that is all I need. Or it's like a really unique piece of clothing. Maybe just the picture of it is all I need. But if it's workout bands, a picture that's not interesting or compelling at all. So showing the workout and showing the results and showing all of that, super interesting. And so really comes down to identity and who are you and how do you get their, and who are you? Who are your customers? How do you get their attention, and how do you show why your product is awesome? Anybody,
Yeah.
and I know this is a bit of a dangerous follow up because you just said, hey, don't just chase the best, because then you're going to be a second rate version of that. But I do think there's value in getting inspiration. There's not value in copycatting. But
Yeah.
anybody you would recommend that we pay attention to that just does this exceedingly well, where we should try to be remarketed by them or check out their Facebook ad library or something like that? Anybody that's doing this really, really well?
Yeah, I get this question all the time, and what I would say is this: find the people in your business that are your competitors that are better than you. Everybody has them. Go be a customer. See how they treat you. Go to their website, add things to cart, shop around. Take an idea of what their store feels like. Like if you were to start a grocery store today from scratch, you're going to build off of every time you walked into a grocery store, the Publix or the Vons or the Piggly Wiggly that you're used to going to, right? There's a format, there's a style. So there's an old saying that I love: you're only as good as who you steal from. And the idea of that is you have an identity, but you need, in order to really evolve that, all of the identities that we have is appropriations of inspirations that we've had. So my best advice, and I'm actually not a huge fan of Ad Library. I think it's a wildly overvalued resource because it doesn't give you context.
If you don't know if this was a good ad, a bad ad, or somewhere in between, right? You just see that it's an ad. That's all you can tell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you want context, go be a customer of your competitor. Like, if you were to spend, I was doing this when I was building 310 Nutrition years ago. I literally went to all of our competitors and I bought their products. I joined their communities. And I got to understand the words that people use, the messaging that came across, the content types. My Facebook feed was full of ads. My emails were full of ads. I had gone through the experience of the person that I'm trying to reach and understood what they're doing so that I could then go be with them in that stream and just give them an alternative. Coming in just assuming that you deserve any attention from anyone is, well, it's a losing battle. And so my best advice is go out there, experience the world like your consumers. And if something inspires you, you're like, wow, they're just doing better. Go try it. And what I found is when you're inspired by somebody, you'll appropriate what they're doing in a way that feels more like you than hiring whoever they hired to do that job for you. Like the Harmon brothers got 1 million people wanting to work for them because of the pooping unicorn ad, right?
Right.
But they've only worked
Squatty Potty, yeah.
for Squatty Potty. Like,
right.
Yes, they're great, but you can't use that ad format for jeans. It just doesn't work.
Right.
So that's my number one piece of advice is if you want, go out, be your customer, be your own customer in the world and see what inspires you. And then just appropriate everything possible and have an allowance for failure. And that's where I get some of the best things ever is like, somebody built a better mousetrap. I'm going to build it my way. And some of those ads will last forever. I've got ads that were like that where, and in my women's clothing business, I literally just got ads from Victoria's Secret that I was like, this is amazing. I built a version of that ad and it spent nearly $2 million in the last year.
Wow.
Great. I'm not reinventing the wheel. Victoria's Secret's wasting all the money. I'll make one more analogy. We can move on because I know you love analogies and this is one of my favorite. McDonald's is the only fast food restaurant that researches locations. Burger King and Wendy's and everybody else puts themselves across the street from McDonald's. Just be Burger King. They're ridiculously successful.
Right. Yeah, and Walmart, or I mean, McDonald's has got the cash and they've got the methodology.
Yeah, let them go.
And they're more of a real estate business than anything else. A lot of people don't know that. If you watch the movie The Founder, you know that. Like their McDonald's is more about real estate than anything else. So makes sense. Makes sense that Burger King and the others just go where McDonald's is. I love it. Awesome. So yeah, this is such good stuff. We could drill into any of that and have a blast. But let's transition a little bit. So let's talk Facebook, or let's talk